the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do.
On the 14th of August, 2023, a grand jury in Fulton County, Georgia, indicted Trump upon allegations of election racketeering and requested him to surrender. This was one of many charges and allegations thrown upon Trump regarding the elections of 2020. Trump had lost that election, but refused to accept, citing election fraud.
The illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us if you count the votes that came in late.
He had requested and pressured many Republicans to do the same, but most refused, including Vice President Mike Pence. This refusal cornered Trump, and he had to give up his powers. But on the day of counting the electoral votes in the Congress, Trump tried a last-ditch effort, an effort to make a statement that he was here to stay. On the morning of January 6, 2021, Trump addressed a large crowd, urging them to save America and to march to Capitol Hill to protest.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity of our elections, but whether or not they stand strong for our country.
This protest turned into a full-blown riot, where people stormed into the Capitol and vandalized it. Over 5 people were killed and many others were injured. The counting of votes, even though delayed, continued, and Mike Pence declared Joe Biden the victor. Trump's Twitter account was suspended due to the way he addressed the entire situation, and almost all of the Republicans and the people were against him. At this point, Trump was sort of thrown into the dustbin. He was gone. Republican senators did save him from impeachment, but that was just a last, thank you for your time, bye-bye. Throughout 2021, the media had moved away from him. People didn't. In 2022, when the supposed red wave failed to occur in midterm elections, every Republican's head again turned to Trump. Amidst the wave of immense enthusiasm amongst his followers, Trump made the announcement. He will be running for the President of the United States of America once again in 2024.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Around the same time, Elon Musk had bought Twitter and reinstated Trump's account. But this wave of enthusiasm soon turned into worry, as the media and the opposition came lashing down on Trump, this time even stronger. Trump was no longer president. He didn't have as much power to fight. Soon beginning in 2023, he couldn't rally around for the Republican primaries, but still kept on winning. On the side, Trump was barraged with several cases. In March 2023, he was indicted on 34 felony counts of fraud. Then in June, Trump was indicted for allegedly improperly retaining classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago residence. In addition to the 4 more criminal indictments brought against Trump, he was also found liable in a sexual abuse lawsuit. These constant loath of cases kept people worried. They thought maybe this time, Trump was actually done. But one thing we know about Trump is he never gives up. So, when in August of 2023, Trump was called to surrender in Atlanta for charges of election racketeering, when everyone thought he wouldn't come.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
Donald Trump actually showed up in Fulton County Jail and surrendered. But he didn't just show up to surrender, he was there to send a message. When Trump was booked in Fulton County Jail, they had to take a mugshot. Soon after, Trump, for the very first time, since he was first banned on Twitter in 2021, 2 years back, sets out a tweet. It was his mugshot, August 24, 2023, election interference, never surrender. The message was loud and clear. Trump was here to embrace the chaos. He wasn't scared, wasn't weak, was certainly ready for a fight. This was the first ever mugshot taken of a US president ever, and became the most famous in American history. It was an American moment, an internet meme, on the front pages of newspapers, and in the news talking about just how much the mugshot was in the news. The wave of enthusiasm was alive again through this one moment, and never derailed, carrying Trump until the end of his campaign. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He is often touted as the real-life Tony Stark. He is the CEO of electric car manufacturing company Tesla and space exploration company SpaceX. Musk owns Twitter, now known as X, a brain chip manufacturer and researcher organization, Neuralink, and much more. He is also a liberal, or was. Musk had voted for Obama in 2008 and 12 and was registered as an independent. He had even donated to Hillary's campaign in 2016 and voted for Biden in 2020. Musk profited from the Biden administration and California's pro-environment policies, which helped his company Tesla tremendously. He was critical of Trump as early as 2022, telling him to sail into the sunset, to which even Trump responded aggressively. But everything changed in 2022. Elon's daughter Vivian legally changed her name to eliminate her entire association with Musk. She was very much involved with trans rights issues and was transitioning herself. Vivian constantly spoke out against Elon and distanced herself from him. This was the breaking point for Elon Musk and the start of his shift from left to right. In July 2022, Musk, in an interview with Jordan Peterson, claimed his daughter was killed by what he termed the woke mind virus, vowing to destroy it.
Prison. So I was tricked into doing this. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
4 months later, he bought Twitter, the biggest left-leaning social media site on the planet. His next step was to reinstate Donald Trump's account, top that of Musk's struggles with extensive regulations and bureaucracy, which Trump specifically promised to fix. Throughout 2023 and 24, Musk has extensively used Twitter to support the Trump campaign, pushing the Republican side and agendas to mainstream viewers when mainstream media refuse to do so. His tweets supporting Trump alone have over 1.3 billion in viewership. But all of this Musk was doing covertly. He didn't directly endorse Trump until Trump was shot when all hell broke loose. Musk directly attended Trump's rally just a month before the election, enthusiastically jumping onto the stage, and directly urged people to vote for him. In the coming month, and from earlier too, Musk would go on to spend $119 million to support Trump's campaign, and along with his massive social media reach, would go on to become Trump's most important ally in his entire campaign.
wow. It's just such a strange concept.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump won the 2016 elections, most of his votes came from older generations, people 35 or above. Most of the younger generations, men or women, voted for Clinton. The same thing happened in 2020, but this time the gap was even wider, with more younger people shifting towards the Democrats. As the Gen Z and late millennials came into the picture, they were more and more liberal and consistently denounced the Republican side, conservatism, and Trump specifically. And even though the mainstream media consistently was shifting to a more liberal side, the young people were still denouncing it, choosing to consume more alternate media options that were much more authentic in their approach than traditional media. At the forefront of these alternate media options were podcasts, long hours of conversations on various topics with various groups of people involved almost broke the fourth wall. A good podcast with the right people involved could immerse you in a world of its topic without any graphics. With just long hours of conversations, it can almost make you feel like you are with them in there. But the right people need to be involved. Kamala Harris appeared on the second biggest podcast in the world, Call Her Daddy. And to say the least, it didn't go well. Harris had appeared on the podcast and other such platforms to engage new young undecided voters. But even those who had already decided that they would vote for her didn't like the interview. The key word here is interview. Podcasts as they are not to be interviews, they are meant to be conversations. That's why they are much longer than interviews. They are meant to be able to know the person and not just their beliefs. Kamala missed the mark here completely, especially when she paid $100,000 just for the set of the podcast. You don't pay $100,000 for a podcast show. That's not how it works. It is supposed to be real and more authentic than traditional media. Why would you pay for it to look more like traditional media? When the debacle of Kamala Harris on Call Her Daddy happened, people rolled back the time and remembered a man. The man who had started it all. The biggest in the game. The OG. The comedian famous for not getting a joke.
Be some sort of a quarter-sized thing they screw into your fucking head and a bunch of wires in there that lets you download information quicker. You're going to be able to talk with no words. That's his exact words to me.
Probably use your phone on a plane, I bet.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you can now.
The conspiracy theorist who would believe the most absurd thing, the bear lover.
Boom!
The greatest UFC commentator of all time, besides many, but most importantly, the most authentic, the most real of them all, Joe Rogan. The biggest reason why Joe is the biggest is because he shows up as who he is all the time. Whether it's about politics or comedy, they both are the same anyway. Or UFC or Ghosts or the Animal Kingdom. You see the same Joe all the time with all the guests and make sure the guests are who they are. You don't need to really spend $100,000 for Joe and would still get 10 times the views. When Kamala Harris was repeating the same answers in her podcast Come interview as in her other rallies, she was failing to provide any new information on her authentic side to the world. This debacle made people look towards Joe. Joe had previously been very vocal about his support of a lot of the Democratic Party's agenda. He had also constantly declined to have Donald Trump on his podcast. When asked if would he have Kamala Harris, he said he had asked her, but she refused to do it the real way. So now to give both candidates a real footing, Joe asked Trump if he would like to finally do the podcast. Trump agreed. And what followed was the greatest move Trump took in his entire campaign. Donald Trump went to Austin and appeared on the Joe Rogan podcast and did it for 3 whole hours, unedited. And all he was there was just a chill guy, starkly different than what he showed at his rallies. He talked about everything in the air from his tariffs, Project 2025, immigration, social issues, and his personal life. Some people did find it boring and that he was switching between topics without completing them, but that was the point. In podcasts, you are supposed to be real, and spontaneity comes with it. The podcast garnered 26 million views in just a day, and has crossed 50 million as of now. Many analysts believe that the podcast dropped just 10 days before the election, with Kamala refusing to do the podcast with Joe Rogan, missing the point of the podcast with Call Her Daddy completely, and Trump completely getting it with him. The podcast swayed many young voters towards Trump just before the elections.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people.
On 13th July at 6:03 p.m., Trump arrived on stage at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Surrounded by hundreds of people, he began his speech at around 6:05 p.m., and just a minute later, several bystanders in the crowd witnessed a man leaning over an air conditioning unit at least 100 meters away from the stage Trump was on. The Secret Service officers were made aware of the same and started searching for the man. One officer reaches the rooftop the man was on and peeks over him, the first time witnessing that the man was carrying a gun. The mysterious man points his gun toward the Secret Service agent, and the agent in a hurry falls off the roof. Knowing that he has been found, the mysterious man starts his operation and opens fire at 6:11 p.m. The man fired 8 shots, fatally injuring 2 people, killing 1, and 1 of the shots hitting Trump. The man was quickly killed by snipers of the Secret Service, but the chaos had just begun. With the constant sound of guns, people started screaming. Trump ducked down while the security officers jumped upon him to shield Trump. A bullet had hit Trump in his ear and blood started pouring out. The people at the rally were still in a state of confusion and shock. What they saw was a swath of bullets coming from the side, hitting 3 of the audience members and Donald Trump. Trump quickly went down, and the people thought this was it. Trump was gone, assassinated right in front of their eyes. Many photographers and videographers were present at the site and rushed to capture the historic moment, only for it to become an even more memorable one. They said from the distance the shooter was from Trump. Only a terrible guy at shooting who has never held a gun in his entire life could miss from that distance. The man fired 8 shots and only 1 of them was on target, only for Trump to just slightly move his head at the same moment, and the bullet missed his head instead of hitting his ear. In a moment of brief silence, when people had accepted the fate, Trump rose from in between the guards with his fist up in the air, blood on his ear, against the backdrop of the national flag and shouted, Trump was alive and well. He had just survived an assassination attempt. The news quickly spread like wildfire around the world. Donald Trump had not just missed a bullet, he had used the bullet to hit a jackpot for his campaign. Suddenly, his opposition had to show sympathy for him, while the people simultaneously viewed him as strong and brave and a true American leader. No amount of millions of dollars could have achieved what one single bullet did for Donald Trump. He gained respect among voters in the state he was in. Pennsylvania was a swing state, and Trump won it by a historical margin, getting 19 electoral votes from the state alone.
2 days ago, I turned 78, the oldest man in my family for 4 generations. And the only personal vanity I want to assert is I'm still younger than Donald Trump.
Guess who else is older than the President of the United States in 1992? The President of the United States now, Joe Biden, and by a whole 4 years. Joe Biden, when he assumed office, was the oldest president in United States history and had promised the Democratic Party that he would not be running again in 2024. But he did. Despite all his visibly declining cognitive ability, he still chose to run for president in 2024, and the Democrats let him by making him win the Democratic primaries after the unexpected success of midterm elections in 2022. Once Biden was on the ticket for the Democrats, the age-old tradition of the United States had to go down, the presidential debate. Trump had won the Republican primary, and after much disagreement, they both agreed to debate on June 27th on CNN. Trump was going into the debate fully prepared, considering the same response from Biden, as he said in an interview. But what he got was this.
Person eligible for what I've been able to do with.
Over 50 million people watched the debate live, and their president mumbled, stared into the void with mouths wide open, and constantly lost his train of thought. It was the worst presidential debate performance in history and the biggest disaster for Joe Biden. Before the entire Democratic Party was in denial mode that Joe Biden was fine, he was all right, but all their denial was blown on their face. Joe's popularity tanked, and Trump's soared high up. At least that's what the Democratic Party thought in panic. But the reality was quite different. Most people supporting Biden were still supporting Biden, but just with a heavier heart than before. The higher-ups in the Democratic Party took this fear as a change of opinion and pressured Joe to quit. Joe stubbornly stuck around for another month before finally quitting on July 21st and endorsing Kamala. But Kamala had never won the primaries. Forget about the Republicans, she was even unpopular amongst Democrats. But with no time in hand to go for a complete primary again, Kamala was hurriedly made the Democratic primary again. When the elections happened, Trump got almost the same number of votes as he did in 2020, but Kamala got 15 million votes less than what Joe Biden got in 2020. 15 million votes just didn't show up this time. If not for that one single debate, Biden might as well not have given up, and might just, by the barest of margins, have clinched this election. When the higher-ups in the Democratic Party decided to eliminate Biden from the race, they not only eliminated him, but also their chances of winning the election. Also, if you liked the video, please make sure to subscribe. I swear you won't regret it.